Hello and welcome to another proper episode of the Everyone is Music podcast. Woohoo! Really good to be back and sharing this week's interview with the fantastic John Kelly. John is a musician, a singer, an activist, an actor, a disability awareness trainer and a very, very nice man. John's got a new single out. It's brilliant. He's since we did the interview, he's had lots of airplay, including the folk show on BBC Radio 2. So go and check that out. Listen to the song. If you don't already, then please do subscribe to the podcast and hit the bell notification so you get notified each time a new episode drops. And if you feel like it, please do give us a review, a 5-star review. Hit that button. It really helps with us being discovered. Do get in touch. I know some people have been in touch, and I've got some guests who will be coming on soon who've just got in touch. They've found us on Instagram and on Facebook. So that's really working. So please do share all our links. Share the podcast with anyone you know who's in music education or is just really interested in conversations around music. And yeah, so sit back and listen to the fantastic John Kelly. So this week I'm joined by John Kelly, who I met quite a long time ago now at the Orpheus Centre down in Godstone. But we've kind of kept in touch over the years, and it's fantastic, John, to catch up with you, see your beautiful face, and just have a great catch up and share this chat with our listeners. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, I was looking back, Mike. 1998, 97, 98 is when we bumped into each other right at the beginnings of Orpheus.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you'd been involved with Share Music.
That's right.
And then Richard Stilgo, who of course sort of founded it all, he invited me to first of all come on the board and help to shape his house into what is now Orpheus Centre.
Yeah.
And you were doing brilliant work with the students and the participants on Share Music, and then the first group of apprentices. Yeah. And I came in as the program coordinator, and we were a team.
It was an incredible time, you know.
It was creative and exciting and nerve-wracking all in one go.
Well, yeah, because we got to make it all up as we went along. Really, it was.
We did, and of course we can't do that anymore. But no, we did. We had a blank sheet and found our way. Made lots of mistakes, no doubt, but also became enriched by it and learnt from it a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it was funny. Just Glastonbury's just been on, and we went to Glastonbury twice.
Yeah,
together, and Notting Hill Carnival twice.
Oh yes,
fantastic times.
But not. So I remember that my first day at Orpheus was an empty office, and I was bearing in mind I was the program coordinator, and 5 students were about to move. The apprentices, as they were called, were about to move in. And I said, so where's the program? And I was just sort of said, that'll be your job then. And so the program folder was literally one folder with a piece of paper in it that had just a few jotted down ideas. And I think your name was on it as someone who was coming in on Friday, so Friday's okay. and that was the program. And then the other note was Notting Hill Carnival. We're doing Notting Hill Carnival. You've got to sort it out.
Oh, that was amazing.
But it was amazing, and it's gone from. I mean, it's very Orpheus is still beautiful and still does some very special, amazing things with what it does at the Orpheus Centre. You know, with music and arts and stuff. But it's it evolves, and it's totally different from my experience of then. But I was back there for the first time in a few years online.
Wow.
A couple of months ago, and it was just there was still a tingle there. There was still brilliant students being utterly creative and asking left field questions that you wouldn't think about, and just going, "Oh, this gang is brilliant," you know.
That's great.
Yeah,
great. Yeah. So what are you up to at the moment? You're concentrating mostly on your music now, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think I kind of realised that So I've always been in music education
Yeah.
for sort of the last sort of 30 years or so. I started off as a youth worker, DJing and engaging with young people who were excluded from education just through DJing, really, just saying, here's some turntables. Do you want to learn how to use them? Or and most it's quite a new experience at that point doing that sort of stuff. So I've always been in music education. But I've realised that my songwriting and took sort of second place. Really, it was always about writing stuff with other people or making music with other people.
Sure.
And I'd written a couple of things, and I really enjoyed it. So I just thought I can spend the rest of my life talking about it, or I can try and turn the pub experiences and the little clubs that I used to play in into, let's test that out. So so for particularly the last 10 years I've been a professional musician. I got a lucky break in that I got into a musical, the Ian Dury musical Reasons to Be Cheerful, which became really successful, and I did 4 UK tours with that, and then obviously the Paras happened and I was asked to sing live at that, which was massive.
That was London, the London Paralympics.
Yeah, London 2012. Yeah. So we were doing Reasons to Be Cheerful. It was already like a hit in the theatre. It was touring and travelling, and they picked it up. And Jenny Seeley, who's the artistic director of that show, was also the artistic director of the opening ceremony for the 2012 Paralympics. So she said, John, we've got to get Spasticus Autisticus in there. And it was a massive secret because everyone was quite nervous about it because of its history being a naughty band song that nobody really understood.
Yeah.
But if you'd seen Reasons to Be Cheerful, there's that thing that when you're a group of people who've experienced discrimination, oppression, you sort of reclaim bits of your history, you reclaim stuff. And Spasticus Autisticus was always a war cry. It was always a call to
absolutely,
not put up with the crap that we have to put up with.
Yeah, I mean, for people who don't know, you have disability, right? You're a wheelchair user.
Yeah, I'm a disabled person. Yeah, I identify as a disabled person. I'm a full-time wheelchair user, and my impairment is quite rare, and it impacts on my arms and my legs. But I've always defined disability not as about my body, but about my experience of living with my body in an environment that either puts barriers up or puts concrete barriers up, and emotional barriers and physical policy barriers or systems and structures. So I believe in the social model of disability, which says it's not my impairment that stops me doing stuff. As we both know, if I've got the right gear and the right technology, or even just working with a person who's got the right kind of attitude, we can pretty much do what we want to do. Nothing's impossible.
Absolutely.
So I believe in the social model, which is like this invisible wall that stops us achieving our potential. So so I identify as a disabled person, but it's probably like most people would say, oh, you're disabled because you're a wheelchair user. And I would sort of turn that around and go, no, I'm a disabled person because I experience environmental and attitudinal barriers that stop me doing the things that we together want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, thanks for that. I think it's really important to kind of get that perspective across, It's, especially for people who don't work in kind of with disabled people. And, like you said, society is not set up that we go to school and we grow up alongside everybody, we become little fractured groups and
and that's what's really interesting is like real hot off the press stuff here, Mike.
Fantastic.
Bringing the podcast right into today's news is obviously over the weekend they announced the National Plan for Music Education, and that's just out, and we had to really work hard. Luckily we got a listening ear, but to say that, well, two things. One, that music technology needs to be valued a lot more in education and schools because it opens the door for a lot more people.
Yep.
And it's where most young people are at. most young people know about music technology because it's on their phones and in their bedrooms and places like that. So music technology being important in education is really important. But also this idea that actually we need to work together. We can't work in these little silos anymore. We have to have disabled and non-disabled people work together so that all that the stuff that we had to deal with when we were kids, and it's sad that we're still in that situation where we're getting generations that still don't experience playing and working together. It's got better. It's no doubt things are improving. But 2 steps back, 1 step. No, what's it? 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
It goes like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think sometimes it feels like 1 step forward and 2 steps back, but
yeah. Maybe that era was more accurate than we.
Yeah, crazy. So you're kind of actively involved in trying to get a listening ear on policy.
Yeah. So I mean, your original question was what am I up to now, and I'm a full-time musician, and I sort of realised that I could spend my entire career just talking about it.
Yeah.
Or I could go out and just do it. And I believe in learning from experience. So the more I experience it, the more I've got to feed into that sort of educational practice. So so I've just recorded a new album, which is my first ever album, believe it or not, even though I've been playing and gigging for over sort of 30, 40 years. I still do I work with some brilliant organisations looking at equality and ensuring that disabled people in particular get equal opportunities to make and play music, because there's still so many loopholes where people slip through the net and miss out. But equally about disabled and non-disabled people experiencing music and music education together on equal terms.
Yeah.
And it not being about the non-disabled person doing things to or for disabled people, but us working together, like me and you used to do back in the day.
Yeah.
It isn't rocket science. It's like
it's not rocket science. No.
You get on well. You find the common language of music together, and you make sweet joy.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the music itself does the talking, right? The participating in the creative process.
Yeah,
is what builds the relationships and cuts through the BS.
Yeah, the participation is what gives you the flame inside and the belief in yourself, which I think is so important. The need to feel well inside as well as physically well is so important to how you approach stuff. And if everyone around you doesn't believe in you and tells you can't do stuff, that impacts on your self-esteem and your confidence.
It does.
Yeah. So music taps into all of that, as we know, and we see it every time we do a workshop or we play with people. You see someone suddenly light up and shine and find that all that rubbish that people talk about you being not very good or not being able to do stuff isn't true. Yeah. So you find that inner thing, and then the connection happens when we do it together, and that's so important. And we need to, more than ever, we need to, I think, be together and share and connect, because there's so many divisions, and I think the buzzword at the moment is like wedge issues that divide.
Yeah.
And we need to find things that connect us and bring us together, because I believe that's probably more true, that we're more connected than we let on.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think the interesting thing that we were talking about before we started recording, which we should talk about, is what happened during lockdown and the different connections and the new connections that get made. The connections via Zoom, via Facebook Live, via all these different media of keeping in touch, and what that has done actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, like, well, I think it was about what we learned in that was brilliant. I mean, like a lot of live musicians, my diary emptied out within a week,
Yeah.
and I was meant to be going on tour, and that was all cancelled. But I was really fortunate the companies I worked with looked after us, and just said, "Oh, John, you've got a bit of kit at home. Could you record?" I'd never heard of Zoom before lockdown. I'd heard of Skype and used Skype, but not Zoom. So they said, "Could you record a meeting on Zoom and then turn it into a podcast?" Because I've got, Logic, and I've got the software. So I thought, oh, I've got to learn a bit about Zoom. So I did that right early on. Um, and yeah, like you say, we just find a new way of using our skills. And yeah, it wasn't the same. It's not like playing in front of a live audience, but like you learn new things, you reach new people. And I was having people come to my online shows that would never come to see me live.
No.
And like that thing you were saying about you didn't get that initial response of like a round of applause or
no, you're in a vacuum all of a sudden. You finish a song, you're giving your heart and soul. It's like, hey, oh, hang on, hello.
Yeah. But then you'd realise, like, if you look back on it, like, oh look, somebody's commented,
yes.
And then you get that warm glow again, but in a different way. It wasn't like an immediate response, but it was over time, which possibly sometimes is really good for us to have feedback over time that makes us feel good.
I think so, and I mean, I'm sure the same for you. For me, the really beautiful thing that happened was when I was going and reading the comments, I suddenly realised that all the people who were coming to be there were having conversations with each other and catching up, and people who hadn't seen each other for a long time just suddenly, restarting a dialogue, and that was just beautiful. To think that you're holding a space for people to come and be together. It was just beautiful.
It's just getting your head around that you're doing that in the virtual world, and actually it can have just as big as impact as holding a physical space or holding a workshop where you make everyone feel welcome and belong. If you do that online, it has the same impact, but maybe to a different kind of audience. And I think that whole what you're saying about building communities does happen online. I mean, you did some beautiful streams of just playing a song or two, and it was just mesmerizing to watch. And I did this thing called Bunk Off Early Fridays, which was live, which was a big mistake at the beginning because I was hopeless at it. But what was more important was people started regularly joining in. And before I knew it, I had a little audience. It wasn't like millions of people, but certainly got into hundreds. And I looked back the other day on some of my streams, and they're in the thousands now because they're still there. Of
course, still watch. It's great. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that community building and bringing people together for more connection is so important.
Yeah. And like I was saying to you before we should have recorded, like you've done that with this podcast. That's Mrs. Doyle marking the passing of time. But you've done that so well with this podcast, because I was kind of lying in bed last night thinking about your podcasts and how it really resonated with me, the issues you're talking about, because we're all passionate about music education and community music and all those things that have been part of our lived experience. But also we learn from listening to each other and like listening to those, the podcasts. I mean, I know Phil Mullen, and there's people that we know that we've shared together experiences with, but just to hear him on that podcast or some of the other guests you've had on, and just it resonates, but also you learn so much just from listening to each other and sharing practice.
Yeah, I think it's so important, and I've also got some interviews coming up, sort of more sort of artist based, and still the experience of what it does to you, that whole wellness thing that you were talking about, how it makes you feel inside, and actually coming to a place where you can heal, you can deal with trauma and lots of different things through your participation in music, and it's a vital thing.
And I think even myself, we talk about this idea of imposter syndrome, and I definitely have experienced that in my life because I've with music, as you'll know, Mike, using music technology, I will have learned. I mean, my music education at school, I was back in the day, and I didn't get any qualifications or anything that were of any use to music or anything like that. And it was never seen. I was never told that I could be a musician
Sure.
as a career path. I think my careers officer said I could be a French polisher. I don't quite know where they got that from, but luckily I didn't listen to that advice. Um, but what you were really saying about your inside is that, and that's why I need to be a musician at the moment. I need to be a musician rather than talking about it, because I needed to sort of feel. I still feel very nervous when I play music with people. I really enjoy it and I get a buzz from it. But I get very nervous because I want to do it well. I want to make it sound nice and that. So becoming a musician, you put yourself in that position of every night trying to make it sound nice so that people enjoy it. And I've really, really learned and thrived from that over the last sort of 10 years, to the point where I got the confidence to go into the studio, and because I've always hated listening back to myself.
Sure.
Um, and slowly I now understand what people say when they say I'm really proud of that recording, because I've got some recordings that I actually really love, not because I'm on them, but because together with the band that I play with, we've made something that's really quite special or quite powerful.
Yeah.
So I think for me, being a musician now is about me trying to get rid of my imposter syndrome, that being more confident to say that I am a musician, and I might not have learned through a conservatoire, or I might not be able to read music or those kind of, or if I do, it's really badly. But I can connect with people and I can entertain for an evening, and people go away enjoying it, and they don't throw too many tomatoes at me anymore.
Beautiful.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss the spit every now and then from the old punk days, but it's probably a good thing I'm not spat at anymore.
Absolutely. It's post COVID trauma being spat at.
Yeah,
It's not.
but the power of music, I think, is what we've both been sort of articulating really is, and there's so much of it that we just don't know about.
Yeah.
I was at a conference in Antwerp. I was lucky to be invited just to go over and play, but it was all about, I can't even pronounce it properly. Syntheses. Yeah, it's where you see music as colours and
synesthesia.
Thank you, that one. And I was just fascinated listening to all these other talks and about these bits of music that we don't really understand. These kind of, we talk about music being multi-sensory, and we know that music isn't just about hearing it. It is about feeling it and observing it and looking at it and touching it. But there's all these bits that we don't yet know.
No,
there's
this wonderful book called "This Is Your Brain on Music" by Daniel Levitin. It's not a new book, but it's got some extraordinary things in there. It's a really good read.
Yeah, and I know that, in terms of disability, the medical model is quite a dominant model.
Yeah.
And so in terms of music, a lot of experience is through music therapy and stuff. And in trying to articulate the social model, obviously you sort of move away from the medical model. And I was at a therapist conference, and I was kind of saying that there's a problem with any model that's too dominant, because you never get a different experience. So I said, as a disabled person, I only ever worked with music therapists as a child. I never saw a musician. I never knew about Ian Jury until I found out for myself.
Yeah.
And so my experience of music was one of therapy. And so as a child, I sort of rebelled against that. And now as somebody who's a practitioner who makes music, I've realized that there's something very important about music therapy to help people explore emotions and deal with things that have gone on in our lives. And there is a place for music therapy, a really critical, important place.
Absolutely.
So, like, I wanted to get that balance. I don't, by me advocating the social model and saying music is also about art and punk and just finding out about you as a musician, it sometimes might come across like you're dismissing music therapy. All I'm sort of trying to get to is a point where it's not the dominant force. It's in its place and it's recognized as really important, but it's not the only way that disabled people should experience music.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, when I tell people, conversation with people about some of the things I do, they say, "Oh, so you're a music therapist?" I'm like, "Absolutely not a music therapist. No, I don't. And that, you know, I don't have that relationship with people that I work with." And but the same as you know, music therapy is a vital thing, and it shows the power of music and how it can really help. But no, it should never just be the only thing that's offered to a group of people who want to take part in music. Absolutely not. You know, it's
but the dominant because the medical model is so dominant, it means that I have some really bizarre experiences, like where you know, the audience think I've done, you know, it must be really good for my body to be playing the guitar or singing or whatever, and those things are probably true, but that's not why I'm doing it.
no.
You know, it's not that sort of. I you know, as most musicians, I probably haven't looked after myself the best over the years, but music has fed the soul and has probably kept it has probably kept my lungs a lot better in shape than they would have if I weren't singing.
Absolutely, you know? Yeah. And you're the only man I know who has a guitar named after him in the Telecaster.
Surely Mr. Gibson would argue that.
Well, no, I know, but that I know, I said.
Yeah, thank you.
Not that I know of.
My next guitar I will name the Mike Fry.
Well, you're very kind and possibly foolish.
That's right. The Telecasters, it was just a culmination of playing acoustic and electric guitars very badly and knowing that I couldn't do the chord shapes the way I wanted to do them.
Yeah.
But knew that I could play guitar physically.
Yeah.
And knowing that music technology was great, like I accidentally found GarageBand on my app when I moved over to the dark side of Apple and Mac, and I found GarageBand and had a pretty decent guitar emulator on it that you could pluck individual strings on. And I thought, well, if you can do that there, I wonder, can you do that? And then I saw sort of MIDI guitars, which were all right. They weren't brilliant, but they were all right. So I said, surely you could marry the two up. And with Drake Music, who we both have an association with and have grown with and loved and been on journeys with, we were doing this thing called hack meetings, where we get disabled people and non-disabled together in a room around music making and instrument making.
Yeah. And
we were looking for little projects. And I said, well, at the moment I play a snooker cube in my bedroom, but I'd like that to be a real guitar. And I worked with Charles Matthews and Gowan Hewitt and a number of other people, and particularly Charles, who helped me with the programming. And born was the Telecaster, and I put, you know, I said, like, I'm a professional musician, so I can't have anything that sounds crap. It needs to sound good for me, and it needs to be robust and reliable. And so over the years, we worked on the Telecaster, and we were lucky that we got some funding to develop it. We met a luthier by the name of John Dickinson, who makes amps primarily. And he made the guitar out of a beautiful bit of maple wood. So I you know, we talk about the aesthetics of Access, and that means for me, Access not being a bolt-on, but being part of the beauty of it, and being, you know, what makes my sound my sound. And he built the guitar. It's a beautiful. I'm in love with it. You know, I go to bed with it and sleep with it, because
Fantastic.
that's what we do with our guitars, isn't it? And it's a lovely guitar, and it sounds well. And because I've learnt a different route into playing the guitar, I'm still learning. I think the thing about it being an instrument is I haven't mastered it, and like there's always something new that I am finding to do with it.
Good. I mean, I'm the same with my guitar. There's always something new
Yeah,
to learn, and
yeah,
just
yeah,
it's a beautiful journey. With all music, I mean, it's just such a
yeah,
gorgeous journey for life.
yeah, yeah.
And
There's yeah, there's more than one way to do everything, and we sort of get taught, don't we? There's a certain way to tune the guitar. There's a certain way to play the guitar. There's a certain assumption or expectation of how you're going to play it.
yeah,
And of course, when you are open to diversity and difference, you soon find out that, in different parts of the world, they tune guitars differently, and they have a different number of strings on their instrument. And then you see the sitar, or you see another instrument, a balalaika or whatever it is.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you realize, so this so me playing it differently isn't really playing it differently at all. It's just a new experience for people.
Absolutely wonderful diversity.
Yay!
Oh,
Another thing we need more of in this world.
diversity, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And I mean, it's like you've always been. Whenever I do stuff with Drake, or whenever I do stuff around music technology, you're always in my heart, because we learned so much together back at Orpheus.
Crashed down. Anyway, we're back.
We're back. We're back.
Woohoo!
Yeah. I was just sort of saying that, you've inspired me over the years, and you're always in my heart. When I do anything around music technology, I always think about our days and all the things we learned. But I think your impact on me has always been that it is possible, and that actually music technology is such a important tool in helping people explore music and make music. So thank you.
No, real pleasure. I mean, I think, my whole ethos with that is it's got to have a musical outcome. I don't want to use a piece of technology for the sake of it, because it's not musical. But you can, if you have an intention and a desired outcome from this thing that you're using, and use it
totally
as a musical instrument, then it's a musical instrument. Doesn't matter what you're using. If you desire it to be a musical instrument, it's a musical instrument.
Yeah.
It's so important to kind of have that mentality and that approach.
Yeah, I think you've just nailed it there in the term, in that bit about the intent, is because, and that's where I think, we're not recording now, are we? But
no, I'm back recording. Yeah.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Good job. I just checked that out. But what I was going to say, then I'll change it slightly, but there's a very low expectation of disabled people making music in education.
Yeah.
And I think there is something really important that is about pushing people to learn new things and to reach their potential.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between encouraging someone to grow and forcing someone, which is obviously you don't want to do that, but you do want to encourage people to reach their full potential. And I think it's that intent to make good music that is the bit that is sometimes, like I was saying earlier on, I was never told at school that I could be maybe one person said it, but that a musician was a career for me.
Yeah.
So I if there's one thing that I would encourage schools and education to do, would be to really believe in the students you're working with, and that they can reach a potential, and they could make careers as leaders, as whatever they want to be. Music, having a high expectation of making really good music is really important. It's really important. It's not about forcing someone to do something in a particular way. As long as someone finds their way to doing it, as long as it sounds good, and that can be subjective too. But you can objectively think about that as well. But yeah, I think that's really important that there's higher expectations, that we're not just going to sit around and bang on a tambourine. We're going to
No, and it
make
and it is all right to push people, if as long as you're
yeah
pushing them in a creative direction, then
yeah.
it's great.
It's about negotiating that.
Yeah,
Is this something if this is something you want to do? Yeah, I want to do it. I really want to learn guitar. Okay, let's go on that journey together. And then it's about negotiating. It's teachers and leaders or workshop leaders. Often, the best workshop leaders I've ever seen are people who give up their power, who don't sit at the front and say, "I've got all the answers and you have to do what I want you to do." The best workshop leaders are people who sit in the circle with you and say, I've got my skills, but let's find yours and bring those out and we can work together. It's that power sharing stuff that's really important in leadership and teaching.
absolutely, yeah. Indeed. Oh, it's so good to see you.
And you. I'm the urban goose, as my T-shirt says.
You are the urban goose. That's fantastic. I've got one last question for you, which I'm asking everybody, which is, who do you know who I should carry this conversation on with? Who shall I talk to next?
Okay. If you want to talk music, technology and education, I would go Gary Day of Garden of Music. If you want to go artist and musician, I would go with Miss Jackie, who's a rap artist.
Wow, okay. Can you?
And a brilliant one at that.
Okay.
So I know that's two for the price of one.
That's fantastic. Can you send me details? Can you?
Yeah.
Do you hook me up?
Yeah, I will.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm just really excited to share this with our listeners. It's going to be great. So thank you again. And we'll catch up soon.
Yes, please. It's been lovely to be with you, Mike. Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks, John. You've been listening to my conversation with John Kelly. Do check out the links and go and check out John's new single. It is challenging. It is beautiful. It's fantastic. Go listen.